Hey everyone, my name is Ben Shapiro, and in collaboration with my good friend Edwin Zhao, we're going to be putting together a couple videos as part of a video series for educators, education schools, and students and faculty primarily that we work with about some really recent developments in AI that are going to happen this year that we think everybody should know about and that we need to be talking about. They span kind of some serious work ethics, privacy, and security concerns, and then also are very much about the massive increases in workplace productivity that are about to happen, it seems, all of which are important to how we think about AI education and AI literacy. So I've organized this kind of little brief video. I'm going to try to keep this intro video real short and just kind of highlight at a high level three different levels of using AI. The first one's quite familiar at this point to all of us, but on the left here, it's the chat-based interface. And in this video, I'm going to focus on a set of tools from a company called Anthropic and the Claude-based tools that they have. But this applies to any company, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google, and Gemini and their product suite. So the first set of tools is kind of the chat-based tools. And in this case, we're going to briefly look at Claude Chat and say a few things that might be new, even if you've been using this for years, right? We're then going to transition to talking a lot about this new tool that just came out called Claude CoWork. It just came out last month. It certainly is in beta development, but it seems to be a real game changer to how a lot of folks are beginning to integrate AI into work. And then finally, we'll say a little bit about a tool really designed for software developers. It has had an enormous impact on that community and is primed to impact other sectors, including education. And this tool is called Claude Code. So with that, I'm just going to hop right in and I'll move through each of these. And we hope, even in this high level video, there's a number of things that are useful to you in how you're thinking about AI. So here we are. This is Claude Chat, very similar to ChatGPT. You have your chat. It's a chat-based assistant. Of course, you can post things and you can have conversations. A few things that might be new to some folks. If you're primarily using this on the web, I'd encourage you to download the desktop application. It's free as well. It gives you quite a bit more power. There's inherent limitations to the browser and using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you're using in the browser. So I'd encourage you to download the desktop application and give it a shot, right? You can organize your chats into projects a bit easier. You can do some other things. Second, if you've never gone down to the settings menu down here, just go click it and look through your settings, right? You have a little bit of control on your data, how memories are managed across chats and those types of things. So if you've never really explored that, go ahead and explore that. A few other things to say about the chat. At this point, probably everyone's heard about the notion of prompting and prompt engineering. If you haven't, certainly go search those things. A good prompt is vital to using this simple chat-based tool, right? And using AI in this way. A second kind of thing to know, it's probably standard at this point, but AI and ChatGPT and Claude here they're not calculators. They're based on kind of predictive algorithms. They're a prediction machine, right? And so they make mistakes, they hallucinate, they do this and that, they have problems. And those problems, we're working on trying to make them better, but they're always going to be with us is the argument, right? So know that it's not a simple calculator, right? A couple other things, of course, whenever you use any tool, even a simple chat-based tool like AI, like Claude AI, here, anything you put in the company owns, right? And so you got to be really, really careful about anything you put in, any sensitive data, because it immediately goes to the company and goodness knows where it's going to go from there, right? So underscoring that aspect is crucial. So again, I'll say very little about this tool, but what I want to shift into is a much more feature-rich tool that just came out last month. It's called Claude CoWork. And if you pay the $20 a month, not saying you have to do that at all, really just knowing about these tools I think is enough. But if you want to pay the $20 per month right now to try this out, you'll get a little tab at the top and you'll see kind of Claude CoWork. So I'm going to go ahead and click it, right? And when I click it, you get kind of a similar, but it's quite a bit of a different interface. It allows for a number of new things. And the biggest difference, one of the biggest differences to highlight is you start by selecting where do you want to work on your computer. And if I click work in a folder, I'm going to go ahead and select a folder here. And I'm going to hit demo. And I'm going to hit open. Before you do anything, and this is the first thing, what Claude CoWork and all the tools that companies are about to build this year is going to do is it's going to allow you to integrate AI with the files in the file system on your computer. Before you do anything, think for a moment. This is a massive change in how AI can be used, right? If you let AI onto your computer, it can do any number of things. Any data on your computer, any sensitive information, it can see, right? If it removes a folder, There's no undo button currently. Maybe it'll be built in the future, but if it removes a file, it's gone, right? It's not in your trash. If you start letting AI work in your computer, all sorts of things can happen. I'll talk about some of them today. It's worth noting that in the software development community, people who are using CoWork or the Claude Code, as I'll show momentarily, are kind of either buying new computers or using old ones and removing anything sensitive from them and dedicating them to their work with AI, right? So there's enormous security and privacy concerns when you allow AI onto your computer. And as we go through, I'll keep showing you more. In this case, I've wiped my computer of sensitive information. I feel good. I'm going to allow Claude access to my demo folder. And there's something in this folder. I'm just going to ask, please read the contents of this folder, right? I'm just going to give it a little prompt there, very simple prompt, right? And it's kind of getting set up and a few things are happening. It's going to actually read whatever I have in this folder. In this case, I only have one single file in this folder, and it's actually an outline of this talk, this kind of video I'm making, right? So Claude is now reading back to me what's like in this file, which is nice. Great. In the top right, you're going to see a little progress bar, a little folder structure here, and something called context, right? And as you start using this more, one of the nice things is you're actually starting to see a little bit more around how AI is working, right? And you start shifting from thinking about just prompting to thinking about ideas like context, which I'll talk a little bit more about today as we get through, because it's very, very important, right? But in this case, okay, I have a nice outline text. It gives me that. What I'm now going to do is I'm just going to simply say, hey, create a PowerPoint presentation from this file. So, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to hit enter, right? And I'll just stop. So for a moment, just to clarify, this is a massive jump again in what you can accomplish with AI. It's linked to my file system. It has a simple text outline, and I'm just literally asking it to make a presentation, right? And it's going to go ahead and work and make a pretty good presentation that I'll show you momentarily when it finishes, right? At the top, again, if you see the progress, you can see how it's reasoning. You're seeing how it's creating steps to do this, right? Also now, if you look at the context in the bottom, you'll see it's loaded what's called a skill. It's called in this case, it's a PowerPoint, PPTX. It's a PowerPoint skill. What AI can start to do now, and tools like CoWork can do, is they can actually download skills that companies or other people have developed and import them onto your computer and do different things. On one hand, this is amazingly powerful. On the other hand, this starts to get at the enormous security and privacy nightmare that we're about to walk into, right? Because if you start downloading skills that aren't legitimate or are developed by who knows who, right? You're putting things onto your computer that can do all sorts of things, right? In this case, I've vetted the PowerPoint skill. I feel good about it, okay? And I'm downloading it. It's kind of a standard skill. A lot of people are using this kind of create PowerPoint skill at this point. So now it's going ahead and writing this PowerPoint file. It'll take about 1 to 2 minutes. So I'm going to come back in 1 minute and we'll take a look. Okay, so we're back and Claude CoWork has finished creating the presentation. You can see all the kind of different ways it was thinking through things here, of course, and up in the progress bar, creating the PowerPoint, generating the file, then actually checking its work and those types of things. And now you'll see in the folder actually right here, there's a PowerPoint. And if I click it, I can open it up right in Claude Code. And here's my PowerPoint. I can open this in PowerPoint. I can open it in Claude Code. And this is certainly not perfect, but it just took a simple text-based outline, put it onto a PowerPoint, saved a lot of time, and now I can have back and forth chats with it and edit this PowerPoint if I want, or I can go ahead and edit it on my own, right? This is a super, super simple use case, but once you start to understand when you link AI with your files, you can do things that are far, far beyond what you can do with kind of a basic chat-based assistant, a ChatGPT or a Claude Chat, right? And of course, the enormous security, privacy, implications of all this, right? A few final things I say, some really other common things are like, hey, search the web for any other presentations or talks like this. And I can just it'll do a web search, right? And what it's going to do now is it's actually, if you look down in the context and the skills thing there, it's going to quickly, I think, load another skill called web search. And it's going to actually go search the web, right? And find relevant talks, based on my prompt. The next thing you can do is you can actually download those talks or download PDFs or download whatever files you want from the web onto your computer to work with. Immediately, you should stop and say, hey, wait, what could go wrong if I do that. And something called prompt injection can go wrong. Don't worry about the fancy terminology. It's just like you're now downloading things from the internet directly onto your computer. And if you don't know where they're from or the quality of those things, that's an enormous privacy and security invasion, right? And that's what these tools are going to let you do. Very powerful to do a basic like literature review search of the web and say, hey, download all the most recent PDFs on this topic from this repository. If you don't trust that repository or website, you've got a really, really big problem, right? So you have to be very careful if you start to use these tools. Immense power, but a lot of issues, right? And so you can kind of see it working here. I could vet these. I could go to the sites, think about if they're legitimate before I download anything, from them themselves. So I'll go ahead and stop there. That is Claude CoWork in the smallest detail. It just came out. It's buggy. It's got some issues, but insanely powerful. And a lot of people are starting to talk about this. Now, let's shift to Claude Code. This tool was actually used to build Claude CoWork. I can actually go through it. If I, again, pay the $20 a month, I can kind of click code up here and I can start to work with it. I'm actually not going to use it in the desktop app. I'm going to use it how most software developers are in what's called the terminal. So I just shifted to a new application. It's a big black screen. Don't be afraid of it. This is how software developers typically work with computers rather than like clicking on folders and using like a graphics interface that where most of us are used to, right? In this case, I'm in the terminal. I see a little thing called demo. That's actually the folder that where all my files are. And if I just type ls, this is a command that says list the files in this folder, you'll see, hey, there's a presentation that Claude CoWork just made and my original outline, right? If there were more files, it would list them here. And what I'm now going to do, I'm just going to type Claude, and we're going to get our nice friendly little Claude icon momentarily. And here we are. We're now running Claude in the terminal. You can do everything that I just showed you in CoWork here with Claude. It's much faster, and you can do much, much more, many more things, right? So I can start by saying, something like take a look at the presentation in this folder and refine all the styling with a nice clear and white background, right? And I can hit enter and it'll start working. It might prompt me for permissions to do certain things. CoWork will do that as well, right? And that's part of it. What permissions do you give AI to actually do things onto your computer, right? In this, see, here's one, right? It's asking, hey, do you want me to proceed? I got to start reading to do this. I'm going to say yes, go ahead, and I'm fine. I know exactly what it's asking for. If I didn't, I wouldn't do anything if I didn't know what it was asking to do, right? You always want to check that, especially when you're working with Claude Code, right? So in any case, it's doing a similar thing to CoWork. It's going to be much faster. Let's come back briefly and see what it does. Okay, so now we're back. That took about 1 minute, okay, and it's now gone through, revamped all the slides to my new styles. And if I go to that actual file now, like here's the PowerPoint, in PowerPoint, right? Totally new styles. Now it's white. I can do, it looks quite different, right? Different kind of thing. The content is the same. I didn't ask it to change the content. The original file that had a dark background is gone. You're not getting it back. There's no undo, right? So when you start using AI tools like this, right, you need ways to work to back up your data. And actually, there are lots of tools that a lot of software developers typically use to do that are going to start being probably made and customized for the general public, right? So in any case, a quick little feel of working in the terminal with Claude Code. A couple other concepts I want to end on, right? So first, if you look at the bottom down here, you'll see a little bar way at the bottom. I'm kind of highlighting it there, right? And it's got some numbers on it. The one I want you to focus on the one is the far right. It says 27%. And what that number tells you is I have used 20% of this chat's memory usage, or 20% of its context. And there is a massive shift between the notion of prompting and the notion of context that is going on. We're shifting from managing not just prompting to managing context. And by that I mean is an AI you can't just have an endless chat with an AI. It will quickly forget things. And that limitation is going to stay with us for a very long time, right? The 27% here is telling you you've used 20% of its context or memory. Once you start hitting 80, 90%, it's going to start forgetting things, right? These companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, are going to start building ways to help you manage context. But right now, if you can manage context well, you're in a much better position to leverage these AI tools. Well, how do you do that? You assign it a text, and then when you're done, you clear its memory. In this case, I'm just going to type a command that says clear. The slash means a command, and it erases everything. And now I have a fresh context to work with, right? So as you're working with AI, no matter what tool you're working with, you need to be thinking about not going on forever and clearing and managing its context, right? You can do that simply by starting a new chat in the browser-based tools, or here you have much more control in Claude Code to use all sorts of things to manage that context. The last thing I want to say that's kind of part of this conversation around context is the notion of agents. And if I hit slash agents again, so again, the slash is a command. I'm now calling an agents creation command. And I have this option to create an agent or use agents I've already made. I'm going to hit create new agent. I'm going to walk through and hit generate with Claude. And now we have an option to kind of create my actual agent. What is an agent? An agent is just literally a file on your computer that specifies a kind of a way of doing tasks, a way of doing things that you want. In this case, to show what I mean by that, I'm just going to make a PowerPoint creation agent, right? And if you look closely, I've just kind of pasted in a simple prompt for creating this agent. Use this agent when I want to create a PowerPoint, and some specifications about how to create that PowerPoint. When I hit enter, it's going to start generating an agent from this description. And this gets really, really powerful, and it can get complicated, but in actuality, it's really, really simple. This is kind of the future around using AI. You can create things called agents that specify how you want things done. You can create many, many, many of them. And then your job, instead of like typing a prompt, specifying how you want to make a PowerPoint, is to just simply invoke or call your agent to go do it for you, right? And then to manage work across agents. This isn't hard to actually start getting good at, and products like Claude CoWork and other products are going to start incorporating this, and they already do in some extent. But Claude Code gives you a very customizable, very, very powerful way to think about agents. So as it's generating this agent, we'll see what it puts out in a second. Actually, there we go. So I'm giving it access to all tools. I can remove access to certain other kinds of tools. And in future videos, we'll talk more about how to create meaningful agents. But I'm just going to say continue for now. I get to choose the type of model it's using. Just ignore this for now. I'm just going to say yes, and I'm going to give it a color, right? And we have our agent, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and save it, okay? And now let's just take a look at what it generated. I'm going to go ahead and select it. And I'm going to say view agent. And this is what I mean. This is your agent. This is what Claude developed from my prompt for the agent, right? It gives a little background context at the top, okay? It gives a core mission, a workflow for using it, right? Installation and setup, some other commands. So look at all these other things it developed, right? In this case, Claude really helped me develop this. This is like a file on my computer now that Claude uses whenever I call my PowerPoint creation agent. This is what it looks like, okay? I could have created this file on my own, but it would have taken a little more work, right? So you get the rough idea of context, of agents, of managing these types of things. So to step back and review, we've gone over 3 kind of ways, different levels, different tools of using AI. The first is quite familiar at this point, but the other 2 are quite new. And there's a number of things that are going to come out that are like Claude CoWork this year, we believe. And then it's also really important to understand how Claude Code works, because all these tools like CoWork are built right off it, right? They're not just built by it, they're literally modeling how Claude Code runs. So again, to emphasize, we also think there are enormous ethics, privacy, and security concerns that are coming this year that are far larger than we've experienced even the past few years. And a lot of other people are talking about this. So in future videos, we're going to review kind of technically how to use these tools, but also a lot more on the security, privacy, and ethics aspects that we should all be thinking about. Thanks for watching, and hope this was useful.